It's moving along pretty fast,
and it will continue to.
Because like
It's
we
fast, but
saw
we're still
it.
lacking the features, the gameplay features that you can use with the ship.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be
Yeah,
another
you
one of
won't
those
get
that
them.
will get through without the features.
It will, definitely. Until they start talking about exploration gameplay, we're not going to see it. But I'm okay with that. Getting it in-game, getting us to try it and play with it, and sort of work out those little annoying bugs where you clip out of ships, things like that. I'm happy for them to get it in because it gives the owners a chance to play with it. And if any ship I own, I want it in game, regardless of whether I can use it or not as an actual ship itself. And yeah, like as I said, the Starfarer has been in for fucking God knows how long, and we still haven't got fuel in. So get it out to the people who bought it. Let people play with it. Let other people see it.
Yeah, I think part of the reason we weren't seeing things straight away is obviously because once you release it, it's a lot hard to a certain stage. It's a lot harder to kind of go, oh no, actually that doesn't work, and we're going to take it back and then jiggle it around and change it all. It's almost like decisions made when we put it out the door for people to look at type of thing. But then, having said that, I do prefer this method. Like as annoying as it, obviously I still want game mechanics, but we know that it's a different team that works on game mechanics, so it's not going to make a big difference. And personally, since they've done away with releasing stuff to the hangar, because I mean, let's face it, those that backed early enough, like I think all of us lot, at least, we only had the hangar to start off with, and it was just being able to walk around the ship of your choice was something that we all really because it's something you really wanted. It was just something. Once you really want something, you just want to see it. You just want to get on it. You just want to have a walk around. And so I think for them to kind of just release this as soon as it's at least flight ready or ready for us to see, because we're not getting it in the hangar anymore, I definitely think it's a better way to do it. I think as soon as we can get hold of it, because like you said, the Starfarer. I mean, there's tons of ships that have got no use whatsoever, but they're flyable. I think. Pretty much most Argo, the Argo, there's loads that just don't have any use at the moment. But for those people that have bought that ship and want that ship, they're pleased to have it. They want to be able to still fly it, and for them, even if there's no mechanic, it's still using that ship to fly to A to B or whatever. It's having saying this is my ship, this is the ship I love, and I know we've talked lots of times about the longer you wait for the ship, then the better your ship's going to be. And the problem is, it's like that balance of, I'm happy to wait, but then there's always that part of you that, I want it now. I still want my ship, even though you know that it could be better if they worked on it a year later. So it's...
I say people who haven't bought it are like, well, I'm not really too fussed if they get it in-game or not. People who have bought it are obviously clawing at the bit, but if you ask the person who doesn't own it, and if they want one of the ships they do own in-game now, they'll say, yeah. Just get them out. Get them out when they're ready. Let us test them. Let us fine-tune them, make sure they're not as buggy as everything else. And then when the time comes for the gameplay to come in, you're not also tackling ship bugs at the same time. You can get on with just tackling the gameplay problems. Right. Because there will be gameplay problems.
How would you feel in terms of, so we've had it a couple of times where we say like the freelancer and something where it's been in-game, it's been flight ready, and then they've said, no, this doesn't work, and they've taken it away and done a major revamp. Do you feel that, would you rather they do the revamps and get it to where they think it's right, or would you rather get hold of it and then maybe even get feedback from people and then redo it?
I think getting the feedback is the best way to go for.
Yeah, get it. I mean, we've had so many ships now revamped, and there's so many that still need it, but also there's lots that are pretty much okay. And coming down the pipe, like the 300 series, that sort of stuff. Get them to us now. Let us, after the revamp, hopefully the majority won't need another revamp once the original revamp has come in. And it's everything's fine again. But we've got the 300 coming. We've got the Reliance coming. After that, I don't know what else there is. What else is there that's needing a revamp? Well, the Retaliator probably needs one.
Yeah. What else? Do we have more?
There must be more, because there's so many ships that were...
Gonna do the Hornets again?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, because I remember flying the Hornet the other day and thinking, this feels old. This feels like it's not up to par. But they have told us about the F7A, but they also said about doing the original Hornets. Have they done that already, or is that now in need of another?
Well, maybe I'm thinking about the Super Hornet. Maybe that's been changed twice now, I think.
Has it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously, I don't want it to be a case of we revamp it, then the game takes another so many years and we need to revamp it again because the next ship that comes out, I think the pipeline is pretty much established now. The quality bar level is established. Let's aim for that. Try not to increase it anymore. I don't know how it's going to be affected when they start bringing in different aspects of gameplay like engineering and so forth. But I don't want it to be this case of, okay, now the game's taking this long, so we've got a new level of standard. Let's try and aim for that again. Oh, well, now we're going for this again. I don't know.
It has to stop somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't keep continuing.
I kind of get the feeling that that's what we're going to have with like the flight mechanics. There's going to have to be, obviously, if you want to even release Squadron 42, you've got to have a standard that's right. We're going to have to leave it at that. So I get the feeling that the next patch that we're, the 3.5 flight mechanics are ones that they seem to be happy with how it works. Yeah. I mean, if everyone turns around and says, no, we don't like how this works, I don't really know where they go from there. Apart from potentially rolling back to something they've already tried that people were okay with.
I don't expect it to be perfect. I expect it to be on the right path. As long as they're on the right path to where they want to be, they can iterate it along the way. If it's a complete redo and it's a sham again, that's where the trouble is. As long as they get it to the point, like it could even be version 1. Atmospherics I feel is going to work well. In atmosphere is going to work well.
Yeah.
Space flight could be. I could see problems arising, like when Madness is talking about it and other people are talking about it. But as long as they're in the right ballpark for it and they just need to iterate upon it, then that's fine. As long as it's not a full thing.
Yeah. And be honest, you cannot always please everybody. So there will be lots of people who will hate it, lots of people who will love it. Just find the middle ground, and that's gonna be. That takes a lot of time, I think. I think we basically will see lots of iterations, little tweaks here and there when it comes out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't expect it to be like boom released and like this is it.
No.
And we were kind of talking about it on the last podcast in terms of it would be nice if they had a group of decent pilots that they pulled in just to do tests before they released it fully, rather than spending, because it does feel a little bit like sometimes that they spend a long time tweaking like a certain method and going, oh no, this is it, this works, and then they give it to everybody else and everybody goes, no, that really doesn't work. But yeah, as Lucky Gaming says there, I think that is, I was just about to go on to that, and I think it's what you're going to have to, people are going to potentially realize, which it's not going to please everyone, is that it's not going to be for everyone, because there's always people that have different opinions on how they think the flight mechanic works. It's actually
and that goes for every game out there.
Yeah, it suits some people and not others. It's like some people like arcadey. Some people want super realism in the game, and they want everything to be super real. And other people would prefer the more arcade route. So, I think Madness highlighted it a lot a while back when he turned around and said, "Well, he goes, I could get to the end of this game being released." He goes, "And I don't like it." And that's a realization that you may well have to even though spending a lot of money on the game, you might have to come and face is that actually it doesn't play like you want it to, especially since we've heard about the development and the announcement so early on. I mean, at the end of the day, we all backed this basically off of like his Kickstarter video and what he said his vision was. And it was purely that. It was a vision and what he said. It was like a 10-minute video telling everybody what he wants it to be. So from that to actually being a game that you like, there's every chance that it's not going to be what you want it to be.
Yeah. And if you're unable to adapt, then you're pretty much, fucked. Fucked.
Sell your account and move on, basically.
Yeah. Play Anthem, you bitch. I'm only joking. That's not fair.
You got a few years of playing Anthem before StarCitizen's out, so you're fine.
Yeah, that's true. Anthem will been and gone.
Normally happen.
Prepper Joe says, I just want the gamepad fat kids to be upset, then it's okay.
What's funny is you go into their offices and they've got gamepads everywhere. Because that's how they do play and test on the gamepads, and you look and think, why? But it's the same as when you see the CitizenCon demo, it's all done with a gamepad. The main reason is just because it gives you better cinematography when they're playing. I don't think it's the controller of choice, shall we say?
I don't hope so.
Well, each to their own, I guess. But how do they make it so it balances perfectly for every HOTAS out there, all the mouse and keyboards, all the controllers? That's a frigging challenge in itself.
Switch.
Yeah. Phone control.
Sitting there playing StarCitizen.
Yeah. They're saying that you can do that with that thing.
To a degree.
I
do think that there's going to be people that are backed, and there's going to be some people that put a lot of money in, and it's not going to be the game for them. You said, it will depend whether they can adapt and accept it as it is. And I think that's going to be the key thing. And realistically, obviously they listen to what people say, whether it's still Chris's vision. And I think that's what most people seem to miss, that I do think it's pretty much he will make it how he wants it to be, how he sees it should be. And you're either
and I agree with that.
Or you're not.
At the end of the day, that's like, there's a lot of people that are coming on board now, as you say, that weren't here for the original, his speech about making his game.
True.
And people are, and don't get me wrong, we are obviously shaping the game. We have changed his mind on a few things, but ultimately it does come down to his ideas. But that's why people pledged in the first place, was because he was creating his game and everyone liked the sound of it. And it's still, to a point, adhering to that style. But the good thing is they do listen to us. We've seen that many a time now where we've said, we don't like that, Carrack being a good example. And they change it. So it's not just a case of it all being Chris's idea. Ultimately, that will be the deciding factor. But we will still have a good voice in it. And when you consider when he was going to do CitizenCon and he started saying we're going to sell digital tickets, and everyone was like, "You're a dick, don't do it." He stopped. He realized people didn't want it, and yeah, they've made mistakes, but in Christ we trust.
It does make me laugh though. Is the whole fine? I won't do it, but you're all going to be punished for that. It's not as good as it could be. And I think that's what mostly that drives him anyway, though, is that it's kind of, especially, from doing some of this painting and stuff, it's when you're creative, you want things to be perfect. And it's no different from him. It's like what your vision is, and then necessarily when it comes out on the canvas, it's like, no, that's not what I'm after, that's not what I wanted. And it's like trying to get that. And also he obviously knows and comes to the reality that even though you want to say, no, I want to make everything happen, he knows that there's also got to be a balance between performance, people's systems, what they can actually use and play the game on, technology boundaries that have been stopping them all the way, that when we keep getting these hurdles, but under the same breath that they're having breakthroughs in terms of being able to do the procedural planets and things like that. So it's things change as well. When a lot of times they said, no, there's just no way we can do something, and then months later it's turned and said, well, actually, someone down the offices has been thinking about it, and he's found out a way how we can get it to work. And it's like, nice.
Well, things like parachutes, caves. When they were first asked, they were sort of really hesitant to commit about it. I don't know whether that's just because they stopped committing to things, or if it's just because they didn't really know how to do it. And I just assumed the likelihood. Same with docking. Docking wasn't that at one point like, no, it's not going to happen.
I'm sure they said no, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, docking's coming. They're already creating caves, and I can't even remember the third thing I mentioned.
Parachutes.
Parachutes, yeah. They said, oh yeah, parachutes are going to be a thing, but Squadron 42 takes priority. We know for a fact we ain't going to be parachuting out of anything in Squadron 42. Otherwise, parachutes would be here already. For a fact, a StarCitizen fact, which
until someone says, actually, I've got an idea of a mission. We could parachute out of it. It's like, shit, there you go.
Yeah, okay, we need parachutes. Yeah. Because you asked for it, not because we suddenly need it.
I found a video on Reddit of Chris Roberts and what's the other guy called?
Tony Z, Erin.
No. It's a video recorded in 1997. You see a really young Chris Roberts, and he still talked about his vision, and that vision has been still unchanged as of today, and that's really cool to watch. He was actually talking about server meshing and stuff, even in 1997 already.
It's like,
I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah, like he knows the technology is going to be there. He just has to keep us on the on his plate until it does come.
Oh, the other guy was John Romero, by the way.
Okay. I don't think I know.
Yeah.
Daikatana and what was the other game that he created? Not was it Doom? No. I always mix up with other people. But it was fun to watch. If I have the link, I will post it again in Discord.
Yeah, go for it. But yeah, I think as Snake says, I think, and that's what I was trying to get at. When it's your project and your baby, your art piece or whatever, you're always going to be critical and you're always going to want to improve it. And I think obviously with Squadron 42, he said it's supposed to be out in a year or so time. There will have to be a point where it's like, well, this is ready. This is what I'm after. And the same.
Yeah.
The beauty with StarCitizen is that it can get to a point where it's ready and it's okay and push it out. And because it's an online game that's going to continue growing, he can improve and make things better as it goes. Obviously, there's certain major hurdles like the server meshing and stuff, which we need as as fixed and working. But there's other things like caves, for example, or even underwater exploration. It doesn't need to be in from day one, but it doesn't mean that they can't have a team working on it.
True.
And then adding it later, which would be amazing.
Yeah, very, very true indeed.
You've got to put stuff out the door, yeah. Sometimes. It's like, no.
Well, that's his downfall.
Yeah.
He's a
perfectionist. But you do have to stop there. And I know that from working through some of these deadlines recently. It's like, no, I can't keep sitting there with the paintbrush and touching it up. It's got to go out the door. It's got to go on display. But yeah, I mean, I've done ones where I've completely finished a model and then the next day I've put it in Nitromors and dunked it and stripped all the paint straight back off of it. Start again. It's like, no, I wasn't happy with something on
perfectionists.
So it happens. It does happen.
But no, that's the thing, and that's what I think we've seen a lot of with Chris Roberts is he wants to put something out, but you can see that's I think a good thing and a bad thing. When he puts out something that he's really excited for, you can see the amount of passion in his face, in his hand, his mannerisms, and it's because he wants it to work. He's not just doing it because he wants to show us. He's doing it because he imagine that being a finished way of wants the game himself more than anyone. So that's I think where the faith is. And so yeah, he's very precious about it. It's been a big hindrance over the past few years because he's been holding off giving stuff when, to be honest, we're like, we don't care. We just want to see it. We don't care if it's scrappy. Yeah. And it's good and bad sides of it.
It's basically a one shot for him, I think.
Yeah.
I think that the key thing here as well is like people are saying, like, he's got to push out the door and stuff, is this is where the team works better, and especially his brother, because it's good that he has his perfection vision, but he also has someone that's a bit more realistic and says, look, that's it, this is enough, we can push it. And I think that's the key thing, is having this other people around him as a team and trusting that team to turn around and say to you, yeah, that's good enough, and push it, and then he'll listen to them, he listens to their advice and then pushes it out the door. Because otherwise we probably wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't have anything by now otherwise. It's like, go on.
No, it's not ready yet. Hang on.
So yeah, it's I don't know. So kind of linking to having things ready. No, it's not really linked at all. But never mind. So the other thing that I was talking about on ATV was ArcCorp, and so this is kind of tied more into RTV as well.
Yeah.
So we'll show some of these. I've got them up anyway. Some of these pictures of ArcCorp, because this is quite a big discussion thing. This is something that's coming in 3.5, which it's going to be. So this is when they first announced, obviously this is based off of lore. When they first started, this is something we was talking about where technology takes over and they do something they weren't expecting. Because obviously this planet, ArcCorp, the whole planet and everything was talked about as part of lore and background, saying, "Oh, this planet's covered in buildings, the whole thing, all the surface." That was before they even knew that they were going to do planets, before they even knew they had procedural planet technology. And so it's great. You can say, "Oh yeah, we're going to have this whole planet that's underwater, and we're going to have this whole planet," because thinking that you're never going to land there, it's fine. And then all of a sudden, someone says, "Oh no, we can make these planets," and I'm like, "Oh shit, we've got to make it." And that's exactly how I feel like ArcCorp is. It's like in your head, in a sci-fi type of way, it's amazing. Yeah, a whole fucking planet of all just building an infrastructure, actually making that, and because we can now fly around it is. They must be kicking themselves thinking, "Fuck, why did we agree to this? Why did we say this?"
What I got from ADV was basically not the problem of flying over that city or creating that whole planet with cities and buildings and structures and stuff, but basically when you're in space and looking down on the planet, all the lights, that seems to be problematic.
Yeah, they said it's supposed to glow, isn't it? They say, unlike Hurston, because it's completely covered in planets, it needs to have like a glowing effect to it because of all the buildings obviously creating the light.
But just like you're flying over towards Heathrow, for instance, and you fly over London and you see all those city lights and car lights and stuff, that has to be implemented. And that seems to be really hard for them to get it really right.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a big glowing beacon, basically, from all the buildings.
But then when we see those shots of them from like, you know, when they're at the R&R station, when we first saw the image of ArcCorp, and you can see that cool little, I know it's probably superimposed over the top of it, but that cool circular, it looked like a target, sort of sight going around. But the image of ArcCorp, that looks so nice from that distance. And I know, like, the majority of their challenge is to make it look good from every single distance as you transition in without that popping and whatnot. And yeah, to do that with just buildings everywhere. When I saw this particular scene of the low suburbs, I thought, that looks good. That looks like... Because I just assumed it would just be one biome, but it's not. It's multiple biomes, but of the same feature, which I thought was quite... I didn't expect that.
But what do you think of the colors? It's all.
I like it. I like the red. Yeah,
I don't want more variants in colors.
I think you're right, actually.
It's
all very much brown.
It's all reddish.
I mean, don't forget, a lot of these haven't even got textures at the moment. But yeah, it is a lot of red and brown color, all like dirt. It's a bit like the planets without buildings. It's the whole thing looks like, instead of having a clean area and a dark area, it all kind of looks like. Well, it looks like Lorville, really. It looks like the industrial site in Lorville. There's not a lot of difference.
It's a bit too similar, isn't it? But now you mention it.
No, I don't mind if they color the industrial part brownish or red, but the villages, the suburbs, the more brighter colors, white, yellow, bluish, you name it.
But then we saw them fly through it in Sitcon, and it wasn't. It had more colour, didn't it? I can't remember. I know it was nighttime, so it was harder to see, but yeah.
Yeah, Area 18 and places like that should probably be a bit more, I suppose, homely, but they do have that sort of dingy future look to it. Maybe lots of neon lights. Very, what's that amazing film that everyone really likes and I think is just average?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, that's the one. It looks very Blade Runner-esque, and it's... Yeah, I think I never really considered having different color textures. But then again, if you're creating buildings everywhere, you're gonna, you know, if you are ArcCorp and you want to create buildings for a purpose, not to look pretty, but for a purpose, you're not gonna think, "Oh, I'll have that blue. I'll have that green." You just think, "Well, just make it. It's serving a purpose, which is fiscal purpose. It's all about money for them, I'm sure." So technically, they don't need to, but it does look kind of bland if everywhere is all red. So I'm good either way, to be honest.
I think this is where I think, like I said, the concept and the actual reality of building it comes into conflict, because in your head, you can just say a planet's full of cities and it works. It's fine because your imagination can take it over. But to carry that through into an actual planet when you've invented the game where now you can land anywhere, it's a much harder concept. And they've kind of been forced to make this because it's one of their planets, whereas it doesn't. I get the feeling, or at least I would feel, that it doesn't quite fit with how they want the game to be. Because
In what way?
like, so this goes on to the topic of what was in RTV, and it was talking about you got the minimum flight height, so you can't go and fly and land anywhere you like. You have to fly within restrictions, and that means the whole planet's going to be restricted. You can't. There's going to be nowhere where you can just go and land.
No, there is. Sorry, you're probably getting to that, aren't you?
Well, there's going to be landing zones, but you can't free explore like you can free explore everywhere else.
There will be outposts,
gonna be
but they're not going to be
buildings
like
that
what
you
we've
can-
seen. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be taller buildings so you can fly through them, which is something that's good.
And you can enter them later on.
So my main question on this as well is like, can you? So obviously we know you're going to be restricted on where you can land. Now in Lawville at the moment, you're also restricted on where you can run. You can see over a long space, but you can't run it. Are we eventually going to be able to, say, if you really wanted to, get in a vehicle and drive every single inch of the city, or is a lot of the city going to be fake? And so,
Yeah.
because
Carry on. Sorry.
no, I was kind of saying this is it. It's like they kind of make it where they want the fidelity and the fact that you can interact and go wherever you want and do whatever you want. And the planets and the moons that we have at the moment, you can do that. You can literally land anywhere and walk around, fly around it. Whereas you're not going to be able to do that with ArcCorp.
There was. I think it will vary with different places. ArcCorp maybe not. I don't know if you're going to be able to drive everywhere. Lawville is going to be expanded upon, but again, whether you can actually get into a vehicle like an Ursa or a Grey Cat, I don't know. But I did remember seeing. I'm trying to look for it now. There was a really old image, and I think it was ArcCorp. It might have been, or video. Sorry, it might have been Terra. I don't think it was Terra. I think it was ArcCorp, where they had Grey Cats parked in kind of like a station where you could pull up and you could charge them while you go off and do your thing. It was a really old video. I'll try and find it while you talk amongst yourselves.
Well, it also comes down to the amount of detail they put into those. Well, let's call them panels. The flat structure with the buildings on top.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not holding enough detail, then walking there or driving there will not be interesting enough. So let's hope they've put enough detail in to make it even possible.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that.
It's complicated because technically I wouldn't want to drive around the whole planet.
No.
Like most of it's not going to have any interest because it's not going to. It's kind of actually like the planets we've got now, where it's just open land and
empty.
everything, and you land there and there's nothing there to attract you. But the fact is, you can do it. So a bit like the Daymar Rally, or we actually will want to do a drive from X to Y position, and we can
Through Chinatown.
any way we want. Whereas you're not going to be able to do that in. I honestly don't think you're going to be able to do it. I think it would be too much work, too much demanding, because you would have to make every street viable, every shopfront viable. Even if you don't enter it, it still have to be viable to be rendered, to be looked at, to have detail.
When they showed off the different, how they created it with the different layers and stuff, that didn't look detailed enough on ground level to make it interesting. So I don't think they will do it.
I think on certain
maybe later on
planets, they may have some planets where you can drive around and, actually get into a vehicle and start driving from place to place. But it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be ArcCorp. I don't think it's going to be Lawville, sorry. Because as well, they're quite high up. When you look around, you can see they're quite actually risen.
I think Lawville's got more chance of eventually being fleshed out. So one of the things they talked about on ATV was in terms of what they've done is they've implemented, say, Lawville, and they've left it so you can't access lots of the zones at the moment. But the reason for that, as they said, is they want to flesh out the technology so that then they can... Because there's no point you, again, walking around these empty buildings that haven't been made. So what they want to do is learn... There's like AI and what they've been working on with these what they called the outposts, the factory outpost, not the factory outposts, what they called now, the
underground facilities, the bunkers.
No, I meant more the
the depots. The depots.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, refineries and things, or the R&R places.
The ones in space, the station, the truck stops. That's what I'm fucking trying to think of. The truck stops. So with the truck stops, they've been doing a lot of work on like procedural technology, and so they can press a button and it'll implement loads of shops and things like that. And then on top of that, a living AI. So I think what their plan is like when they work on those things that work, they will then implement that into Lorville, so that Lorville's actually got something to offer. So when you walk around it, there'll be more to see. So I do think that would probably open up more, and I think it'll be the same with ArcCorp. You'll have that sort of area, but it'll be restricted once you get past. You won't be able to go past that area. I suppose I
don't know though, because they did. We had Grey Cats in ArcCorp anyway, didn't we, for a little while? So I wonder if they're actually expanding on that to the point of allowing us to drive around. And we know that the transport isn't a train; it's going to be a flying bus.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that's flying, and the key word is flying there. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to rule it out as a possibility, because we've got clear signs of ArcCorp having Grey Cats around and the potential for driving. But I think now they've really delved into it, it's unlikely. But I wouldn't want to say no 100%. I'd like to have a glimmer of hope.
I think we'll be able to drive, and I do think we'll be able to explore. I'm saying I think we won't be able to. So imagine so maybe the best way of looking at it is we'll have, if ArcCorp was like GTA 5, that sort of area, you'd have that area to drive around in. It's just that when you get, I don't know what happened when you get to the boundaries, but I think it'll be restricted. So you'll get that much, but you won't get the whole of ArcCorp, because don't forget ArcCorp is
it will be
as the landing zone.
Yeah, specific
18,
areas
17 and the rest.
Yeah, definitely not everywhere, but there will be planets where we will be able to sort of drive around and go from place to place. At the moment, we've got Hurston, we've got Lorville, which has a big wall, so that's going to stop people getting in. You've got ArcCorp, which is completely building everywhere, so the likelihood of that is unlikely. But yeah, I think there will be planets where you can do that, and I would like to see if they do and create some ground vehicles, like your day-to-day sort of car vehicles. But these sort of things are way off. Microtech, I can't imagine. Crusader, definitely unlikely. They're not, the planets in Stanton are not the sorts of planets that you would be driving around. Crusader is Hurston is the only one that's a potential.
Yeah.
I think, as Lucky says, they're actually that would be a nice idea. So if you had different landing zones like Area 17, like, even if it's miles, like just maybe the main road that goes through would be accessible with buildings either side. But I suppose, that's what I'm saying. ArcCorp throws up a huge problem for them, because obviously the immersion and the fidelity, they want it so that you can explore and see everything. And you're just not going to be able to do that on ArcCorp. And they obviously know that, and it must be a little bit of a bugbear to them, because they probably, if they could, I'm sure they want, to be able to give you access to all those areas. But
well, maybe later on, but definitely not within the few upcoming years.
Yeah. No. I do wonder, though, if they're going to be joining Area 18, 17, 19 on a rail or a train system of some kind. Did they mention something about that? I kind of recall they did, but
I can't.
They said about the travel with the bus.
Yeah, there'll be domestic.
That was between areas, but yeah.
Domestic flights and whatnot, rather than just international, I guess.
It's going to be... I mean, at the end of the day, Area 18 is probably going to be pretty big anyway, and there's going to be lots to explore. I think you just have
bigger
to
than Lorville.
You're going to have to get the fact that it's not all going to be explorable. However, I still think flying among all the buildings, that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of... Do you know how at the moment when you come to a planet, you've got the orbital markers and you can travel between them, and then you're kind of not going to even see most of the planet, because you'll just zip to the landing zone that you want to get to, I suppose, really. But yeah, so I mean, one of the things he said, the biggest, so on reverse was, what's the biggest technical hurdle for 3.5, and it's like, making a planet covered in a city.
Instant regret.
But, So that's maybe why we've got limited amount of information about the other planets. It's like, shit, don't promise anything. Now we've actually got to build it.
Yeah.
We don't want a full magma planet.
I do love the idea that these buildings are going to, like, instead of having the outpost, you're going to have buildings that stick out. And although I think most of the apartments are going to be within the landing zones, you could potentially own an apartment block somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. Because if you look at it as in these buildings that protrude above the no-fly zone are outposts on a normal planet. That's sort of how they're seeing it, and it makes sense. Yeah. So you could potentially own or build, or not build, but own a place out there if you pay enough money, because they do rent out space to ArcCorp, to traders and whatnot. They screen them and make sure that they don't step on each other's toes, from what I understand in the law. So there's a potential that you could live there outside of the areas.
I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to handle like buying apartments and how you can explore them. I think they're obviously going to go with some sort of technology that if you crash into it, it'll blow your ship up and the building's fine. My building's got a full shield on.
I hope so. When I see you coming onto my living room window. Oh fuck! There's this.
Like GTA 5 in the flying past.
Yeah, that was GTA 5. We've had some interesting crashes. But one of the things I mentioned, I can't remember if it was RTV or ATV, and it's not been talked about for a long time. But it was the whole how the obviously the original plan was that was it, where the no-fly zone blows you up instantly. Whereas when they very first talked about it, it was going to be if you get in the no-fly zone, it will take control of your ship and bring you back into path. I'm looking forward to that coming in, and because it kind of disappeared, but they did mention, I can't remember on which one of the shows, but they are still working on it, and it looks like it's hopeful that it's going to be working. So I think that's probably what we're going to see in terms of stopping them from crashing into buildings. It'll be like
that's being done by the air traffic control, right?
I would assume so. The ATC guide. I think
they mentioned that.
Yeah, it's saying that. Does that apply to everywhere around? If that's only really applies when you're landing in a main location, it's the IFCS. I think you mean, isn't it? The IFCS is what engages the ship to do what it needs to do. So I guess, but they really emphasized it, didn't they? They really, they made a point. Even not Aaron, who was the other guy on the ATV?
I don't. Todd was on RTV.
Todd?
Oh
no, Josh Herman.
Yeah.
He made a point of how it's obviously scripted, but saying I really hate how he's probably never played it, but when you fly down and you suddenly explode, and Eric was like, oh yeah, no, that's changing. So yeah, it's as long as they bring it in quite sharpish, that'll be great. Thanks, CIG.
Yeah, I think he said it's pretty much the same. I think it's like, as long as my ship doesn't blow up, I'll be happy. Because it was. I mean, that was literally the first thing I think Mac and I did when we got to try and play the game, and it was like, oh yes, planets, let's go land in Lawville, and we went, oh, warning, you're in a no-fly zone. What's that mean?
Didn't
Mac?
show you it though, did it?
Boom.
Yeah, we had to spawn all the way back at Port Olisar again, and then you flew and managed to make it, which was surprising.
I still hope they get rid of that ugly no-fly zone texture.
The flash. I mean, it's actually quite useful, but it doesn't look nice.
Exactly. They need to find another way to make it visible.
Yeah, definitely.
This is too much into your face.
But I think with them taking control of your ship, that'll probably help with that. That'll probably like flash on, and then if you're still in a place,
that's true. They don't need to show you, do they?
Ship back into position. I think it should be. It's going to be a lot better. I would have thought. Although it does mean you could just bomb it to the planet and wait for them to take over and say thank you. Now let
there we go.
I mean, if that's the compromise between being able to fly everywhere, but have them take control of your ship, I think, because it wasn't one of the very first landing demos when they said you were going to land at landing zones, said that you were going to be taken on RALs.
That was amazing. That was ArcCorp as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. When they showed
2014,
that was all. You come and came in for landing, request permission, and then it took control. You just sat there and watched it. So it's that was a long time ago, but actually
you need to play that.
I kind of didn't mind it. Yeah, we can play that if you can find it.
Yeah, it was so cool.
I didn't mind that idea, to be honest, though. Especially, like, I wouldn't necessarily want it everywhere, but maybe for something like ArcCorp, because it's so built up, if it meant that they could take you down and really fly through the buildings and take control, I think that would be cool. I think that would be a good way of doing it, because you're getting the visuals of flying through all this cityscape, joining the channel line. If they have other flying vehicles in a trade lane or something like that, you can. A bit like what's it? Element? No, that film where they all get in line and Blade Runner and all the others are the same. I suppose you basically get in like the trade lane and it ultimately takes you on the road.
Yeah, like Fifth Element and stuff.
Fifth Element. That's what I was thinking. I knew there's an element there somewhere. So yeah, I think I would be willing and happy for that sort of compromise.
Yeah,
Can't find it.
Oh, come on, Mac. I was waiting for that.
I saw it when I was searching for the other thing, and now I can't find it again. But it was all on rails, and it was just like the transition through atmosphere, which felt good. It was rattling, and then it got taken down. And then they figured out they could, you could land anywhere. So they just thought, well, we'll just give you the option to land wherever the hell you want. It was cool, though. Oh, how we've come from there.
Yeah, just a bit. It's funny when you go back and watch some of these old videos as well. How much? Because you when you're watching it a lot, you don't kind of see that it's a bit like anything. You don't see the small changes because it comes a bit at a time. But when you go back and look at some of the old videos, it's like, oh wow, that was definitely
here we go.
Yeah.
Found it, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, let me give you this link. Look at that, easy peasy.
Bear with.
Where should I put it? Should I put it in Twitch? There, you can grab it from there.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
No.
2014 it was, I think.
2014.
Was it? Yeah, 2014. CitizenCon 2014.
Oh, was that when they had the actual ring to fly through as well?
Yeah, the orbital ring. Oh, that was... I don't know.
That's not the orbital ring, actually, I don't think.
No, that was a derelict destroyed.
Look at that cockpit.
It's like, for those of you that back to a while back, it's like nostalgia.
Yeah,
and it was like everyone was like, oh, it'd be great if we could just land wherever we wanted, but they said, well, we don't want people trolling, so it's going to be automated. And then, when I saw this, I was like, you know what? I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But then they've changed it again, and it's like, okay, that's even better. Oh, the use. I'm gonna get that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
I am
idea.
gonna get
Just
that
a
on a
big
T-shirt.
use button.
I keep saying it. I keep forgetting.
I'm not gonna put it up here, but more upside down to other.
Oh fuck!
Use. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
F to interact.
Just put a D on the end of it.
Used.
So wow, this ship looks a little bit different now.
You don't say.
But the funny thing is, it's like anything. You look back at this, and it's like when you first saw it, it's like, oh, this ship's amazing. Look at the detail. Look at these panels. And then it's like they can't improve on this shit, and then they do.
But look at that gate outside.
To think we settled for that,
But to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing things like that orbital. I mean, this looks like a damaged one, but like rubble like that in space by the planets or whatever, flying through some of those. Like, you imagine that if that was like a level to land on and explore.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It does still look good, even when they transition through and you can see part of ArcCorp. That's when That's when it wasn't a procedural planet and it was just a single landing zone.
That is the best entering atmosphere animation you've ever seen. Just basically lights flashing in your face, though. But yeah, I mean, like I said, for ArcCorp, I would definitely be happy for them taking over and then.
And I don't think the reason why I don't think it's the ATC taking control is because I think it affects the whole planet. So even if you're not heading towards a landing zone,
monorails and everything on there, what happens to
Yeah.
them all?
that looks like a real cool. That looks more detailed than what we currently have.
It does.
But if you're sort of transitioning under that, however high level of around the planet, if you're nowhere near an area landing zone, I don't think it's gonna be the ATC that takes you out and push. It's just gonna literally take you out of the no-fly zone and stick you back to the place.
Yeah, that could be, yeah.
So I think it is just your IFCS that kicks in and says, nope, you clearly can't do this on your own. We need to hold your hand.
Yeah, I mean, that is quite a fleshed out. I mean, that was the ArcCorp we used to walk around and explore, so...
Yeah.
I suppose it's been a fleshed out level for a long time, but it's because it's fake.
Oh, I want that shit in right now.
It looks so good. So there we go, folks. That's what we're talking about. That's like the auto landing. That's what we had before. And, oh, yeah, just still everywhere. I'll be happy with that. So we'll see. We'll see. There's still things to go. The buggies, the horror. Oh yeah, good. The times we had on ArcCorp, eh? The good time.
Absolutely. All the wall clipping that has been done there to reach other things.
Yeah, those we used to try and get out the windows.
Yeah, and then the sleep commands to get through the glass gates and. Really neat. But it's closing in the time. If you look
I tell you what, though, I have missed that
February.
ArcCorp not being there. You know, considering like we used to have that as it was again a bit like you said, like a role play zone where you could go and buy stuff from the shops. And it did look really good. In fact, I had like a animated wallpaper that I was using at one point, which was just the backdrop of ArcCorp moving past.
Right. Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. And so I do miss that landing zone not being there. And so I'm hoping that we get. See, the thing is, because I've remade it, are we going to get ArcCorp to look? Are they going to use the assets that we had before, that you could walk around with the globe that was spinning in the middle of the med bay? Is that still going to be there in ArcCorp and then expanded on, or are we going to see a whole new ArcCorp?
I'm fairly sure
18, sorry, I keep saying ArcCorp.
It's a mix of both things. Used things and new stuff they made. I think when we see it, we will be amazed by how they changed it, and still fairly looks the same. It gives the same atmosphere. That really Blade Runner style stuff. You know, that's really what I'm looking for.
Because I mean, Lawville was good, but it doesn't. It's like you said. It's that very red, browny industrial looking thing. Whereas the ArcCorp was very much more clean, more a city you can imagine living through, or living like
true,
like you said, Blade Runner style.
I think ArcCorp's going to be more like Tokyo or somewhere where it's really bright, lit up. Always something going on, sort of New York, Tokyo main hub place.
Foggy, rainy, neon lights.
Rain. Oh, because we saw the most recent look into ArcCorp that we had was before there's these little ATVs. Was that CitizenCon where they were in the landing zone and they walked to, they saw the Terrapin and then they got into the Aurora. And that, as they transitioned across the bridge from the ship purchasing place, Astro Armada, that whole place looked really good and really different. And they've said already that it's completely different from that now. So I think we'll have that Sophia. That's that sort of rotating cog thing in the middle. That's the ArcCorp central shopping area. That's like the main hub or the part that you see when you come in.
Yeah.
But I miss running around ArcCorp. Those days when you're pissing around, just chucking yourself around the place. So fun.
Spent hours and hours there.
Yeah.
Well, I remember a long time ago we tried to do like a video that was in it, but back when you couldn't record anything because it kept crashing or buggy. But we tried to do that video around ArcCorp. It was so funny. Yeah, not a lot.
they had all the clothes for sale.
That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to in 3.5. ArcCorp's going to be an interesting one to see.
Yeah,
definitely. I can understand how it's been a technical challenge for them all. Okay, so we'll move on from there. Unless anyone else has got anything they want to add about ArcCorp?
No.
Okay. So the next thing I talked about, which again I wasn't sure, is just like so he's talking about the automated gimbal mounts in the roadmap.
Yeah,
and he asked for more info.
This gives me more concerns than any good.
Yeah. I wasn't quite sure what he was on about, because then he was saying, so when he didn't talk about it being automatic, but more in the case of they're going to looking to get rid of the lead and lag pips, and Do they want to expand on that? Because I don't know. I listened to it and I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about.
All I understand is they're getting rid of the old lead, the follow pips. They're going to make it more so that you have to stay on the tail of your opponent, keeping them in the center of your screen, and over time your weapons will then converge so you can fire. Now, to me, that sounds, that's great for atmospherics. That's pretty much dogfighting. But in space, I feel it should be more about pulling off really interesting maneuvers, different maneuvers that you wouldn't find in atmosphere because they would be completely different. I know he did say that in a couple of weeks, we're getting more video, more images to explain it. So when I was talking about this today on stream, I did sort of say I don't want to go too much into it because
we'll come
I
back
have
to it
no idea.
Hmm.
But
I don't hope
know.
it does an auto lock within a certain time. That would be really easy mode.
The fact that it said gimbal mounts, I'm presuming that this isn't like the future for everything. We're not saying that you're normal. Like, is it just mean the turrets?
I hope so. But that's my biggest question. Does it mean everything, every weapon?
Yeah.
Fixed weapons?
Because I mean, because when he was saying it gets rid of it, because like part of the way he was explaining it was that you have the lead and like pips. He said, but the reason you have like multiple dots is because you have different weapons. He says, and then eventually they tried to get the you at right distance those weapons will merge, or you just have to use different pips. So I maybe I misunderstood, but when I first saw it, I thought he meant more like turrets. So turrets tend to have one gun, so you don't necessarily need a lead and lag pip because you're not going to have multiple types of a gun on the turret. And so I thought that maybe that's what he's talking about. But yeah, I suppose again it was something we'll probably have to come back to. But I suppose they're struggling a lot.
Yeah,
I thought it was turrets, but yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong. So maybe it's something we'll have to listen, find out what they talk about. Because like I said, we don't want easy mode. We don't want it to just lock on. So
no, not like in Elite Dangerous that it does this, and then all of a sudden, bloop, and you. Even if you're not directly behind your target, it will just lock on your target, and you fly straight, and the turret. Well, basically, never gets rid of the auto lock unless you do a 180, for instance. But yeah, I'm not feeling too enthusiastic about it.
No. When I first read that, I was thinking, or heard it, I thought this could be a madness complaint section.
Yeah.
So we'll see in the next couple of weeks.
Week off.
Yeah.
D boys, it's coming.
But no, hopefully, because obviously I fly HOTAS, so I don't use gimbals anyway. But I don't want it to make mouse and keyboard players have no ability, like fuck it up for them. All the gamepad people, it's got to be usable for all. That's why I'm not concerned about atmospheric flight. I think that's going to be amazing. But space flight, get some professionals in to sort of give it a good aspect.
Yeah. So we'll leave that one for now because I think that's, like you said, that's going to be a topic for Madness to.
It's a hornet's nest,
have its soapbox. And like
it's not really clear, and
it wasn't. His answer wasn't clear enough to actually understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So,
too risky.
But anyway, that's just for you guys to go away and think about and get salty about. Preload your salt.
The homework. Salt gathering.
Come back next week. Let us know what you think. So another thing they mentioned, which is just a kind of tick box thing, is any plans to increase the friends list capacity. So at the moment, I think Carrack was saying something like 250 people.
No, 200, isn't it? I think. Oh, I don't know.
I was saying 250, but anyway,
just
he's saying it was
parameter.
like he didn't know whether it was restricted because they just picked a number or whether it's because of technical reason. So. One to look out for. I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. I don't have 200 friends. I don't have 2.5 friends. Anyway, nothing.
I think Rexzilla will definitely benefit from that, and I'm looking forward to seeing anything he does with 200 people in a server.
Yeah. Well, that was less about the server and just about friends list, actually.
Yeah, the friends list.
That's true. Yeah, that makes no sense anyway, does it?
He did talk about. There was a question about the server capacity.
Will not be changed anytime soon.
Yeah, I can't find it. But basically, they were saying it's they have no intention to change it anytime soon, and I think the main reason behind that is because of server meshing. They're working on server meshing, and I think they want once that's working, it's not needed. No point overloading a single server when they're going to be using multiple servers. So I think that's what we're looking at with that. So it's a shame because it's funny how these 50, like especially with some of these bigger streamers, have been doing these events. The 50 servers have been full up, and events have been crammed full of people, which is fantastic to see because that was one of the things we were concerned about. It's probably the best way of putting it when they first added these planets and moons, because like you said, 50 people on a server is not much, and it's such a big area, and so for people to be so sparsely spread out, it takes away some of the gameplay, some of the, you feel like you're in an empty server. So I think the fact that these people have been grouped together and doing org events and flybys, I think Mac, you've been running your org events. It's great to see, and it's good to see. I like people moan about this, like the Widow hotspot and that, and I do think there probably needs to be a few more, but I do like the fact that they've made gameplay convergence. People moan, but it's not much different to when we used to have Korea.
Do you know? I think it should be quite sparse from people. When it's space, for God's sake. We're on a planet.
Yeah, but to be honest, I think if you put the limit to, let's say, 200 people, 300 people, even then it would rather look empty.
Yeah, it's
most places.
They're going to populate it with AI. That's the whole point. Is 90% of what we see is going to be AI. But until that comes, it's going to feel quite isolated, and it needs to feel that way. And it's a sort of the case that if you want to see people, you can go to the hotspots. If you don't want to see people, you can go to an area on a planet or in space where it just is out of the trade lanes. So there's places to go if you don't want that. But I don't want it to suddenly become overpopulated. Even now, with however many people are playing it, 50 people on a server. It's space, for fuck's sake. It's not supposed to be populated unless you go to a populated area.
Yeah, true.
No, that's exactly it. But I think that's what I'm saying. The hotspots or the arranged events it's good because you're getting those turning up as populated places. Yeah. Like you said, if you go and land or you go off, you want a quiet bit of mining time. A bit of quiet mining time.
The quiet mine.
You can go and do that all on your own, and you can feel alone, easy, like you're in space, like you're away from it all, which is.
I did. I went mining around Kuda Ore, and I was on my own for a good long while, and then suddenly I got a contact, and I was like, "What?" And this random bloke came down to Kuda for some reason. I don't know why. Was about 8,000 meters away. Came down, did something, went away again.
Stations, boop.
I was like, right, I'm going to make sure when I'm mining, I'm looking in that direction. He comes near me, my mining laser is licking his ship.
But that's great. That's the kind of gameplay you want, and you're going to experience as a miner and things like that. Though, like all of a sudden, the contact comes on, you're like, oh shit, what's going on?
What's he going to do?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that feeling. Thank you, everybody. Yes, you can indeed ask questions if you do ! Q, ! Question, or ! We do have a question. So yeah, please fill that in. Ask us some questions. Ask us in chat as well. We do try to answer questions and interact with chat as well on this show. That's part of what we do. Although this is going over the news, we do also like to actually hear people's views rather than just repeat the news. So, do ask us those questions. So, so another thing we talked about that was on ATV, we talked kind of about the Lorville being unexplorable, and how the tech's coming, so they're going to be you will be able to explore more of it. Just for sake that so people know, they've talked about the ladders being too grabby, and they said that they're kind of constantly looking at FPS. And we know that we've seen them doing videos of the vaulting of the animations from cover to running speed and things like that. So we know it's not final. We know there's a lot more to work through. I mean, them ladders, the first days on the Star Ferry, you couldn't actually run past the platform without it yanking you onto the ladder.
True.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then you can't get off again. Like you step off the ladders in the Valkyrie, and you're like, right, let's go. No. Okay, let's come back. No. And it's like 4 or 5 times you're sucked back onto the ladder.
Yeah.
Hilarious, but after you've seen it the first time, it's just a pain in the ass.
It's like if your ship's on fire and you've got to evacuate because of self-destruct. No.
yeah, it's like fucking hell.
So we hit on it a little bit earlier as well, which was the parachutes confirmed. They said the parachutes will be coming, but not soon because of Squadron 42, and they're not needed. Just as a little conversation thing, how would you like the parachutes to be implemented? You want just like a traditional parachute that we have now? Or...
I want both. I love the idea of having like a Hercules fly over top and then everyone bailing out like it's World War II, which is completely irrelevant, so dangerous, and everyone's just going to get shot to shit. But it would look cool. But I think they should have a cool futuristic kind of, I guess, like the Riddick films where you sort of land on a bloop, or maybe you come all the way down and then you have a jetpack jumpsuit that just goes and you land.
Yeah.
That will be my way.
Yeah. I was thinking jetpack. I mean, I don't think we're going to see it. We may do. I mean, we've seen it in other games. I think it would be kind of cool to have, even if you couldn't necessarily control it too much, so you're not flying around exactly like Iron Man. But I think it would be pretty cool to come down and drop on a jetpack. Although I'd probably be upside down and just jetpack faster down to the ground. Create a shit face in the wrong way. But that's Max said something then I hadn't thought about, which would be pretty cool if, like, I don't know, something fired out of your suit like an air pocket type of bouncy castle thing and absorbs.
A bit jello.
Yeah, it kind of takes that. We don't necessarily see it as yellow, but like it takes that absorption of the pressure of the drop and just slows
Jean
down
Tech. Is it the Prowler, the Taveran Tech? They have like some sort of tech like that. Sure. Oh no, the Jean have those really cool floating. They defy gravity, don't they? The Jean. They have that ability to defy gravity in some way. So maybe a Jean jumpsuit.
Alien mucus and spit.
Yeah. Hey. Disgusting, but you saved my life. Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know how they'll explore it, but I'm interested to see what the hell they come up with. But it's definitely something I think that we would need. And if maybe only Titan suits can do it, where you can jump out and go do the Superman when you land, and then you run, and then
all the
your
way
friends
from
come out.
atmosphere to the surface.
Yeah,
I rather would it have to be like some sort of, well, just having the small thrusters we already have when we are in space. That's limited of some kind of fuel, so you just drop down with limited movement, just like Miserable said. And at last moment, it will just do its final puff, and well, you're standing on the ground, hopefully, or sitting.
Hopefully.
Well,
doing the superhero landing, isn't it, with the knee down?
Bruce's Price is Right, sort of thing.
Cliches.
They've said that EVA suits will be a separate part of a suit anyway. So you'll have your undersuit, you'll have your clothing, you'll have your armor, then you'll have your EVA jets that you'll buy separate. So maybe instead of buying an EVA jet, you can just buy a jump jet or a I don't know what you'd call it, a parachute jet. I don't know. That just gives you that boost right at the end, and then parajet.
Shoot jet.
Why not? What? Shoot.
Jet shoot. Jet suit, or jet shoot.
Oh, fuck, I don't know. No, it's too complicated.
What are those? Anyway, we're not seeing it anytime soon, sadly, but at least we know it's coming.
Nope.
So, it's flying bus we talked about. So this is something actually I was thinking about before they even mentioned it on there, which is interesting because I was talking to Jo about the game, and she goes, "Well, what can you do? Can you make anything? Can you make?" No, I said, "Well, you can trade cargo." Yeah, but can you make anything? No. So on ATV they talked about having, and we knew this was, I suppose, well, I would hope most people realise this would be in eventually anyway, which is like having resources from certain places. So if you're trading cargo, you're not buying every single piece of cargo from Port Al-Assar. You can't sell it every single piece of cargo at a truck stop. It has to be, if a place needs it, you can take raw resources like copper and take it to somewhere, and it'll turn it into something else, which you can then take and sell.
Like a refinery, yeah.
Yeah, so they said that they were looking at adding more of those, more reasons for you to, because one of the questions was, what's the point landing in Lawville to sell your ship when you can just land in the orbital station and sell it there instead? I'm looking forward to the time when, at least in Jumpgate, when I played that, you could, if you wanted, say, certain missiles, and it told you that it took certain resources to make this missile, you could literally load up the back of your ship with the resources that it was needed. You could take it to the station, and then, not straight away, but within time, it would like basically start putting that in production. And the next thing you know, if it had no missiles, next thing you know, it would eventually have 10 missiles, 20 missiles, and the more you fed it, the more you fed the station, the more stuff it churned out. I think that's what we're missing at the moment. We're just buying and selling, which is a bit bland. But I think once we start getting those sort of aspects in the game, it's going to be a lot more interesting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the economy, isn't it? Like the economy, when that's fully fleshed out, there'll be a supply and demand. Your equipment and your ships and everything that you purchase, that the consumer in the game purchases, which is us, will need to go through the process of raw materials. So they're going through and figuring out what every item in the game needs in terms of raw minerals from being mined, to then being processed through a refinery, to then being established to a factory to build it, and then that factory supplying the shops and so forth. So it's the economy is one of those aspects of StarCitizen that is the foundation of the game working. A bit like the flight model, without it, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
And they are now going through that sort of thing, making sure that every item has its, like, you'll take like a Coda weapon, and it'll have X, Y, Z, whatever needed to create that item. And then there'll be a demand. If that item gets sold out somewhere, they'll need to reproduce them, which means the factory will need to get the resources. The refinery will need to refine the resources to get them to the factory. And it's just a whole cycle that is going to be dynamic and influenced by player and supply and demand and resource management. And so instead of, like, Lawville might pay a massive price for a particular commodity because they don't have it, because everyone's been like, well, I ain't going to land there because it takes 20 minutes to get down to atmosphere. I'm going to go to the R&R. So Lawville will be like, right, well, we're gonna give you more money. Yeah, so that's what's the incentive is they're going to pay me 10 times as much as this R&R. Why would I do that there when I can just fly down to there for a little bit longer? But I don't know when that's going to get fleshed out fully. The economy is something that, again, will be iterative and will take a long time to get anywhere close. But when it does come, I tell you, what a day!
Oh, we'll be playing then.
Yeah, I might start playing again.
But yeah, I mean, it's a shame because I think it's, again, so we're kind of a little bit off on a tangent, but the similar thing is they did mention about putting a lot of their production on Squadron 42, and if it's not a Squadron 42 feature, don't expect to see it. So like
anytime soon, yeah.
So kind of linking with that, I do feel like this year potentially could be a bit disappointing, in at least in that respect, because I think we're not going to see game mechanics unless it's linked to Squadron 42 game mechanics.
Well, yeah, I guess so, but I think we will still see game mechanics coming, but the majority of focus is on Squadron 42, but I think that affects more things like FPS and so forth. I don't know. I think AI, FPS, flight, that's where the importance is for Squadron 42. That doesn't mean we won't still get things like gameplay mechanics and stuff. It just means that certain things in FPS, certain things in flight we might not see because it's not needed for Squadron 42. So it might get pushed back there. They do still see the importance for game mechanics in the PU, but like you say, the economy isn't going to be affected by Squadron 42 in any way. So, well, the real world will, but the in-game economy is so irrelevant to Squadron 42. So they're doing it now. They're making it as much as they need to for the sake of mining. And when refineries are supposed to come in 3.6, that will still play a part in it. Obviously, it'll be very basic. But yeah, as soon as Squadron 42, like when 2021, that's going to be an incredible year because all the resources will be like, boom, straight onto the PU. But yeah, they are prioritizing, and rightfully so. They've got to make a good impression with that.
Well, it also depends on the teams, of course. The development teams that is, well, most of them are also working on Squadron 42 features. But if there's a team that could do the actual economy stuff, which is not quite necessary for Squadron 42, they can still develop it for StarCitizen itself. So it doesn't mean that each and every feature out there will not be skipped as long as it's not available in Squadron 42.
No,
Yeah, true.
it's not a priority.
Exactly.
I mean, one of the things I found interesting, which I don't know if we knew before, maybe we did, because obviously we have a lot of information, is that we've seen them working on stuff and said, well, that's nearly done. Why didn't they bring it out on this patch? And so one of the things he mentioned was that if it's not ready enough within I think it was a month to 6 weeks of the patch being ready, they'll can it. It doesn't mean they stop working on it. It just means it won't be implemented in the next patch. And I thought that was quite interesting because we look at things and we see it on ATV and it's like, and they message and they put, oh, we're really close to getting this ready. And then it's like, well, why the fuck is this not in 3.5 or 3.4 or whatever?
Yeah, that's what's happened with Salvage is the guy that's creating Salvage, he's working on the trade and development division. He's just finished that. So now he's moving on to Salvage, but that means that he's got a month basically to get Salvage to a state of being implemented into the game before the cutoff time for end like March, basically. So the beginning of March, because if it's not in by then, it isn't going to be ready. You know, they're not going to have that month of testing to get it right. So that's why and Todd was even saying, we may see Salvage in, was it Salvage? I think it was in, it wasn't Salvage, was it?
It was Criminality and Law, I think.
Sorry. So it's not Salvage. The guy who's done the TDD has moved on to Criminality and Law. Forget Salvage. And they're saying that we may...
Like, oh, we're getting Salvage.
Shit, I've really messed up there. So we may see the first iteration of Law, Reputation, Criminality, that sort of thing. Of not the first, but the next iteration gameplay coming into 3.5. But he says the chances are very slim because of that month cutoff. 3.6 is kind of a definite, but obviously there's nothing definite, is there? So yeah, it's
but I just thought that was an interesting little thing that wasn't. I didn't realise they had such a long cut off, if you like, especially when they show things off. And you think, well, that'll be in the patch. It's like, no, it's not. So yeah, that was cool. That's that bit. We had a couple of questions, so we'll answer them first and then go for the last few bits of RTV. So one of the questions was from Mr. Phantom Killer, and he asks, what are you more excited to have come out, the 890 Jump or the Carrack? And if you could choose a big ship to get completed, which one would it be?
Oof. Go on, someone take this.
I prefer the Carrack because the 890 is too shiny for me. It's not fitting any of my playstyles, I think. But Carrack will be definitely something I really like. But yeah, I don't own it yet, unfortunately. What was the other question? Which other big ship?
A big ship. Yeah, to be completed. So it's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like you could just have it now.
Then I would go for the bigger mining ships.
The Orion.
So that's the Orion. Yeah, yeah. Really looking forward to that.
Definitely the Carrack. But I would want to see the Javelin. Whoa, beast. Or the Bengal.
Potentially painted Javelin. I would like to see the Javelin in game because I haven't seen any pictures of it. Oh. I don't know where that ship came from. But yes, I'm Team Carrack as well. I definitely would like to see the Carrack. It definitely fits more of what gameplay I would like to play. Even though it's not going to come with the gameplay, I would still like to see the ship anyway. It ticks the sort of boxes what I like from a ship, other than it's not alien. But yeah, for big ship, I'm probably with Mac now. I'd actually like to see the Javelin. Although,
the Endeavour, yeah. Ooh, I can't wait to have the Endeavour with all the farming pods. Yeah, just being like,
amazing.
Today I'm gonna, I wake up and think I'm just gonna go and farm
my carrots. Yeah,
my carrots. Yeah, why not farm my Carracks?
Oh, baby carrot.
Yeah, that's another good choice.
Yeah, that is a good choice. That one actually. Yep.
So
Okay,
many
so
ships I've forgotten about.
the next question. That's the problem. There's lots of big ships. It's like I can't even remember.
Yeah.
So the next question was from Dirk, and he said, "Do you think that streamers like Rexzilla streaming massive PvP battles will have any effect on how CIG approaches Death of the Spaceman?"
No, I wouldn't say Death of a specifically. I think they may approach certain things in a different way because they see potential and the way things are unfolding. But Death of a Spaceman, I think, is kind of set in place, and I can't see that changing too drastically, especially not just for the case of someone streaming it in a different way. That sort of gameplay is definitely more aimed towards big org battles and so forth. It's entertaining now because it's available now, but ultimately Chris doesn't want that kind of fast action paced all the time. He wants more of a thinking through your thoughts, thinking through your battles, he won't. If I assume you're maybe thinking, will the respawn points be much quicker? But spawn points are going to be tactical based on the ships that you have and the location you are in the verse. But they still need to have weight behind death and so forth. And that is a big part. Like we were going back to when we were saying about Chris building the game he wants. He doesn't want another COD. He doesn't want another game where you can just instantly spawn and come jump back in again and start fighting. He wants he wants death or, making the wrong choice to have weight to it so that you stop and think and plan. So I don't think so.
Well, he said not that long ago in one of the interviews or something he had that he basically wants people... He wants StarCitizen to be kind of like another life, so they, there's somewhere where they can escape, but they live and breathe StarCitizen, and to do that, you need to have the Death of a Spaceman approach. It still needs to feel like you're cautious with your life. You don't want to just throw it away the same with your ship. And it was funny because, like I said, I'd been playing Arena Commander a little bit the last couple of days, and the amount of, not a lot, but I do still bump into people now and again. When dogfighting, and every time it's like I need to stop doing that because it's like when it comes to an actual fight, you can't afford to just ram into ships all the time. There's something like we're so used to the more cavalier attitude of because you can just respawn and stuff that it's all right to just get hit by somebody or die or whatever, and it's going to be a big shift for all of us when it comes to a point where it's actually no, this shit matters. If you're going to get into a PvP fight, you're gonna damn well want to be sure that you're getting into a PvP fight. And I think even Todd said it about on RTV. He said, there's going to be times when you look at it and think, no, I want to get out of here alive. I'm running. And I think that's something we're going to be a big shock for a lot of people, and something we're going to have to get used to. Because I think, as Nog was telling me earlier, that someone was moaning a little bit about how they have to wait for their ship. But to me, that's all part of the same gameplay. It's like you're not supposed to lose your ship constantly.
And respawn it that quickly, or even pay that expedition fee to get it even faster. Wouldn't be my choice. If it was me, they should get rid of that and make it longer. Really wait for a couple of hours to get that ship back.
Yeah, proper punishment. Really make people stop and think, shit, I'm not going to do that again. I'm really going to... Because, it isn't... And they said this from the very beginning. And like we've said, people will be disappointed. They'll come in thinking the game looks amazing and everything they've ever wanted, but the time to go from this planet to that planet takes too long. Getting your ship back takes too long. Respawning takes too long to go. Like, that's the point. Yeah. The point is, you're supposed to think about this game. You're not just supposed to jump in and get a quick fix. It's supposed to be a second life, like you say. And I agree with that. And I really hope that he sticks to that and he doesn't get waylaid by those controller gamers. I don't like the stereotype.
The question was like the biggest streamers and that. And I think he has his vision and it's going to stick to that vision. He'll get the feedback and he'll tinker with things, but it's still the overall vision of... It's a bit like we say when you see a concept ship and it says, this concept ship is a bounty hunter ship. Don't worry about the little pieces of how it's going to work, you're back, or what size gun it's got, or everything else. You're backing or you're buying into that concept ship because it's a bounty hunter ship, and it's the same as that. His vision is you're going to live this life. You're going to treat it with caution, and so it doesn't matter how we get get there or how they choose to tweak it so that it suits more people. That is how it's going to be at the end. It's going to be that your life matters more, and you're going to have to be cautious. So regardless of how you want to play at a certain point. I mean, these people want these big battles. That's what Star Marine's for. It might be something that they'll be able to implement in Star Marine in Arena Commander and let you have those instant respawns. And like, if you imagine it like Star Trek, the holodeck, if they had shit like that where you could literally say, right, we spawn into a little map and do a war, you can do that sort of thing.
That's something, I don't know if it was on the cards to mention it, but the whole after RTV, when Todd Pappy said after this RTV, he's got a meeting with people talking about Star Marine and Arena Commander. And I know Soros has posted something on the Spectrum about making, like, I hope it's about getting a strike team on it. Because I think Arena Commander and Star Marine are actually more important now than they've ever been for the sake of training, testing, getting other people into the game and stuff. And Soros actually made a good point of making that a free-to-play for anyone who has an account, allowing them to play Arena Commander Star Marine, without having to buy an actual account, but creating an account on the website. And I think that's a good idea because it'll encourage people to test out mechanics like flight, to test out the FPS. And although it might be a bit misleading and make people think the whole game's about fighting, which is not a good idea, it'll still give people the incentive to think, this feels good, this looks good, I'll buy it, But I think Star Marine, Arena Commander, that sort of stuff now is actually more important than I know they thought, well, there's pointless making that because everything's in the verse. Now there's a weight to what you're starting to do in the verse. And, you get killed with a weapon. When you're holding a weapon, you lose it. It costs you $4,000 again to go and buy it. And that, to me, is not a big game breaker, but it's a pain in the ass when you're having an org meet and everyone's battling and you have to keep buying a new gun.
Exactly. It interrupts. And that's a good thing.
But as long as they get it, I mean, at the moment, it will put them off because AC and Star Marine are shit. But once they get the strike team on it and they get it to the point where it's pretty much representative of why they want FPS and flight to be, then I think it will do more good than harm. Well, definitely more good.
Mm-hmm.
It's got they've got to be polished and working how they want it to be. Because otherwise,
I'm not saying like now,
but I thought maybe
people play this.
Arena Commander was reasonably enough to play. Like if you're not thinking too deeply about it, it's not how the game is. I suppose that's probably what they're going to be maybe a little bit worried about making them free. It's like you said, the image of this is how the game's going to be, all combat sort of thing. But
it's a good idea. I don't know if it's
not a bad idea.
The best idea, but it's definitely an option for people to try. I mean, they have free flies, so that's a good time. But I don't think the free flies are as often as they should be, actually.
No. They seem to drop it when there's a big patch when they've got loads of other bugs causing issues as it is, and then you just get this big pit of crappiness because everybody's logging on. It's a new patch, it's not working. It's like, let's not release free fly when we're in our stable point. No, let's release it when everything's totally unstable. But there you go. So that was the two questions. We've talked about most of it. The only other thing I think that was on RTV was we touched on it a little bit, which was the caves and then bringing in like a cave system and things like that. And it's interesting because he kind of so it sounds like they've already got them because both Jared and Todd said, we tried the prototype and both got lost, which was interesting. But when they said that, my first result was, well, what's wrong with that? Like, but there's nothing like if you're going into a deep, big, dark cave, getting lost isn't that part of like being an explorer? That's the cool part of it. And I was kind of worried they were going to go, we don't want it so that you get lost, but they did turn around and say, oh, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I was like, it's not.
That's the thing, make that the thing. I love that.
It's only if you just can't see.
I've actually got a video coming out this week. In fact, I think I've finished, so it should be ready to go tomorrow, talking about the towns, villages, and caves. And something to do with the caves is firstly, they're prototyping it now. They have a working prototype where it sounds like it's big. It sounds like, they get lost to get turned around. They want to try and build it from a modular standpoint, like everything else that they do. I'm sorry, I'm a bit bright because I've got my notepad up. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you look like him.
This is what we have to put up with.
Bright yellow, like a Simpson. And they're trying to get it modular so that they can literally create it, distribute it as quickly as they can, moons, planets, ships, those sort of things. And they're syncing with that next week to try and figure a way to create them. They're also going to think about things like they're learning the do's and the don'ts about how to make them. So things like looking into how to create ravines, different types of rocks. Will it have ice, magma, water, those sort of things? The metrics so that if you're running through it and you want to jump up on something, you can, if that's the option there. Also, how will AI wander around them? They don't want the AI to just be like running into walls because they're stuck. And also taking vehicles in. But yeah, people getting lost in a dark cave with creatures, aliens, other AI, other players. Can you imagine walking in there and finding a cache of weapons from a player defending it, and you're like, oh, sorry. I thought it was empty. I was hoping to claim it. Never mind.
X out slowly.
Yeah, or defending your own cave, finding a cave when persistence is in.
This is my cave.
Yeah. And you have like a cache of weapons in the back that you don't want people to know about. You don't have to claim that land. You can just sort of claim the cave, have a guard on post, and sort of keep people away.
And then it'll be
so
like
much potential.
Thunderbirds and Tracy Island. All your ships are in the cave.
FAB, Captain.
I'm going to wear secret weapons and ships inside this cave. It's the Bat Cave. Yeah, you never know. So yeah, I mean, it's something that people didn't think we were going to get, and I think it's like a lot of these things. It's stuff that we will be getting eventually, and the more they improve the technology, the more the prototype, fucking procedural stuff gets better. The more we'll see these sort of things. But I mean, for me, that's kind of. I mean, the game's missing lots of things, but it's they've mentioned. So this is part of what they mentioned. But the population or things that are happening are very sparse at the moment. You've got lots of open land with nothing happening. The odd outpost. Yeah. I feel like it's missing these sort of like lots of eyesight, lots of things to look at, lots of bits of interest, and like I said when we just saw that Connie landing on that 2014 demo, the debris outside the planet, and all the bells and whistles, which I know is a lot later down the road, but that I'm looking forward to when that happens. And Todd was kind of saying a similar thing in terms of, and it goes back to the fact that they were working on truck stops and stuff. They're trying to get certain mechanics, getting it working rather than fleshing out each area. So it's not like these moons are finished. It's they've got it working to how they want it to work. So now let's get the AI working, so that when the AI is working in, say, a truck stop, we can then put that AI in a city or whatever, and then that AI will work in the city as well, or the AI will work in an outpost. So yeah, it's kind of how they're building it. So in some ways, it's a bit like how they said about the procedural planets. They were working on the tools first before implementing it onto the planet, and I think this is kind of how we're going to see it being populated. It's kind of working on those tools before they then implement those onto the planets. Yeah. But I do look forward. I suppose a good example would be the CitizenCon demo when they landed, and you went over the fly zone and it was obstructed because of the weather. They had to go back, and then they got ambushed by the raiders. And the worm. That sort of gameplay, that sort of populated planet is what I'm looking forward to eventually coming in, and I'm hoping it's not like miles away. It would be nice to be able to have areas like that you can go to and be ambushed, or actually explore a bit more deeper than just go to this little wreck and pick up a box and move on with it. So
random villages and towns and that sort of stuff that Todd said. Just the multi-pass process they're doing, but it's just at the end. Priority is just the mechanics, like you said.
Yeah,
AI and stuff.
And I think if there's a real choice, we probably want mechanics over those fleshed out areas at the moment. If I'm honest, like I want the trading in, I want the smuggling mechanics in, and all that sort of thing. As much as it like look empty at the moment, we want that sort of gameplay loop, the production side of things. I think all of that would be. I'd rather that get done.
But it's important that they do create from the ground up. They're not just thinking, right, we can make a cave there. Let's just fucking stick a cave there and see because you see in most games, you play it and like I mean Bethesda games, Elder Scrolls, you go into a cave or somewhere and you get stuck behind something. Everything's clipping. It's like the fuck is this? It's a AAA game. Why is this happening? Yeah. The fact that StarCitizen or CIG should I say are working on they're not just thinking right, a cave would be cool. There you go. Have a fucking cave. Sorted. It's let's find out the best. Like they're working out the do's and the don'ts to create a cave. They're not just going, here's a cave. They're thinking that won't work. That won't work because of this. Let's make it so it will work. Let's take everything into consideration before we actually create the cave. And then you can have a cave. And I just want a cave.
Yeah, because so many times you said cave in that sentence. But no, you're exactly right, though. It's like when they say, oh, can we have caves? And they go, oh, it's a bit tricky. You're sitting there going, well, it's not. You dig out a bit of ground, you put an entrance to it, and there you go, there's a cave. And I think that's it. It's like they're not aiming to do that. They could do that. They could easily do that. They could easily go on the moon and just carve an area out. What they're saying is that's not what we want to do. We want to be able to press a button and it'll procedurally generate the things inside it actually make sense. You can traverse it. Like you said, you're not going to clip out. They don't just want to stick a hole in the ground and call it a cave. So I think that's
what they want to call it.
A wormhole.
Yeah, imagine the worm blocking your cave entrance. Like, fucking get out of the way.
That worm needs to be in game. Like that's another thing. You just feel like just stick it in.
In ArcCorp. Wow.
You just hear this banging because it's like shit. Who fucking covered this planet in
tiles? Yeah.
Earthquakes. It's not really an earthquake. It's a fucking worm.
What's that movie? That movie from
Tremors.
The 80s. With...
Doom.
Yeah. Tremors.
Yeah. Oh, Tremors.
But they're all standing on the car and like chucking something down.
Did you see they actually they made a pilot for a series of Tremors with Kevin Bacon and it got cancelled?
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I saw the trailer and I was like, Adam, my brother, I was like, look, because we were big fans of it. And we've watched the whole trailer, got really excited, discussed it for a long time, and then noticed that the title of the video was cancelled Tremors series. I was like, no! All that time I've been watching this. It was great series.
Yeah,
it was
awesome movie.
Sorry, yeah, movie.
Okay, so moving on from that thing that's not happening. If anyone has any questions, ask very quickly because we are finished. There's not much more to go on to RTV. Anything either of you wanted to cover this week that you've done a video on or want to talk about that we discussed?
The weapons are looking cool. The Coda we saw just a quick sort of update on the hand revolver pistol. We saw that it had a cylinder chamber rather than a typical magazine. It was like a, which is very cool for like pirates. And also
every cowboy, smuggler, western person has to have
wearing a duster. Like what's his name from Firefly? Also, it had an attachment. Like anyone from Texas does.
Yeah.
They had an attachment which allowed for a laser and a sight, and they did mention in RTV that when attachments do come, we're going to have 4 options, which is going to be under barrel, on the barrel, a sight, and then magazine options. So that's kind of interesting to get an idea. But I don't think there's anything more. But the Coda looked cool, and also in the little drop-down boxes where they're creating the weapons, they did have a dirt and wear factor, which was set to 0 because obviously when you buy something brand new, it's going to be pristine. And then I think 3.5 we're getting a bit more in terms of wear and degradation. So your items, components, not everything. I'm sure they'll have to introduce it to everything eventually, but you'll start seeing things and items wear down and take effect, like misfires and stuff. And I just can't wait till I have a weapon that I've had for ages starting to wear down and thinking, oh, I don't want to get rid of this. Polish.
Oh, clean it.
Yeah.
Dirty
That's
underwear
about it for me.
confirmed as well.
Yeah, when you all strip off, starts getting a bit dark. A few stains.
I wear these pants for weeks. Was there anything you wanted to talk about, Buck?
No. I have to get to work tomorrow again after a week of holiday.
True.
Week of car fixing.
Yeah. No, nothing really that comes up to my mind. No.
Okay, cool. We'll end it there. Just a few notes that if you missed the start of this podcast or you want to watch any of the last ones, !Asylum in chat, and that should give you the links to our YouTube. This one will be going up hopefully by tomorrow morning. And as I said at the start of the podcast, if you ask any questions on the YouTube video of this podcast, we will try to then answer them on next week's podcast. So if you think of anything you want to ask us, you can go and submit questions there. You can come and submit some questions on Discord as well. Don't do ! Discord because I don't think the link works. But yeah, you can come on Discord and ask us questions and submit some there as well. So more than welcome to do that. Otherwise, Mike, do you want to tell everybody what you're up to next week?
Yeah, I'm camping, so fuck you all. I ain't gonna be here.
So he's basically abandoning you all.
Yep. No chair stream, nothing.
Oh.
You could just put the chair on and just leave.
Yeah.
I thought about it, but Rachel will still be here, and that would be kind of awkward. You might see and hear things that you shouldn't.
More reason to do it.
Yeah, I'd get more viewers than ever, wouldn't they?
More viewers. So she's not camping with you then?
No, it's just my two cousins and my brother, and that's it. It's too cold for ladies.
It is. It's too cold.
Yeah, but I will be putting. I've got hopefully 3 videos coming out this week while I'm away. The first one is coming out tomorrow. It's on towns, villages, caves, what we can expect to see, and so forth. There's also an 890 jump update based on what we saw in ATV, and also my favorite ways of making money in the verse at the moment. But I still need to put that together, so it's about like that, whether I'm going to get that out or not. But that should be going up between Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'm back Saturday evening. So as I say, the roadmap update may come on Sunday, which means StarCitizen Sunday may come on Monday. If I can get it done on the right day, I'll try it. But I feel like this update for the roadmap is going to be pretty big. But if you want to see images of and pictures of where I'm camping, of the tent, of the walks, of what I'm doing, Twitter, my Discord, you can see them there if you so choose. If you don't want to watch it, then fuck you don't have to. It's fine. I get it. Nobody cares.
And yeah, you won't be on next week. I don't know when you'll be coming back on the podcast, but hopefully we'll get you back on soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah, why not?
Every
And
other week,
Buck, what are you up to, my friend?
I don't know yet. I think I will be doing a couple of StarCitizen streams this week, but it really depends on how work will go. Just received a message on my telephone. That could be... yeah, it can get quite busy this week, I think.
He's a cool girl, you see. He's wanted.
In demand.
Yeah. He's got a message on my phone. Oh yeah, I see you, sexy boy. Hook me up next week.
So no,
okay.
it looks quite disastrous. So no promises there.
Okay. So yeah, make sure everybody you're giving these guys a follow. They are awesome streamers and StarCitizen enthusiasts. There's one way of it.
Yes.
StarCitizen enthusiasts. I myself is actually going to be away as well. But I'm going somewhere even colder. I'm going to go to Switzerland for 6 days. So, but I'm not camping.
Oh, wow.
So that's at least a little bit better than sitting in a freaking tent in this weather.
Fuck you.
Yeah, so next Monday, hopefully Madness will be back and he should be hosting. I won't be here. Yeah, but there we go. That's otherwise, thank you all for joining us. Like I said, if you're interested in BritterzenCon, make sure you go and give them a visit and find out. It's been announced April the 27th. Make sure you go and buy your tickets, which you probably can't yet, but keep an eye on it. We'll keep you updated. Go and watch us on YouTube. Thanks everybody for all the follows, all the subs, and everything else that's been going on in the background, and all the raids. Very much appreciate it. Same time next Monday. Make sure you tune in, and we shall catch you all later.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.